What's good, y'all? We back with part 2 of the TMNT retrospective, and I couldn't be more happy. Last time we took a look at the 90s live-action TMNT movies, and it was a great experience. It brought back a lot of childhood memories and gave me some new lasting memories.
Where's Splinter?
He's been up on the roof ever since he saw your report.
Really? Doing what?
Coming.
This time, we're going to be looking at the most recent live-action releases, the Michael Bay-produced TMNT series. The last time I had a lot of nostalgia to drive forward my enjoyment of the experience. This time, not so much. I was still younger when these came out in my preteen to early teenager phase, but I don't remember much from when I originally watched them. So that means this is going to be a mostly unbiased and straightforward look at the films. Also, thanks so much for clicking on the video today. I hope to see you around again. Without further ado though, let's dive in. So these movies aren't particularly my favorite. They're still entertaining, but by no means would I say they're good. Starting with the first film released in 2014, the first thing you immediately notice is how unattractive this movie is, and I mean that in the most literal way possible. The first shot has this god-awful shaky cam, and that's just nauseating, and the whole movie throughout is super washed out and drained of all color. I understand tonally they wanted a darker aesthetic to match that gritty, more serious tone they were aiming for, but all of the shots like these were just blah. It didn't feel like grimy New York, more so it just felt like the movie itself was made to be dull. On top of that, the movie's very messy. Honestly, the third movie from the 90s with its wacky 16th century plot felt just as much of a TMNT story as this did, because we barely see the turtles here, and the plot makes no sense filled with characters we don't care about. Specifically, the villain plot is extremely wacky. Instead of giving time to Shredder, we spend majority of the time watching this dude, Eric Sachs. If I've learned anything from watching the Rush Hour series, never trust an old rich white dude who is nice. So in this story, a young April O'Neil saved the turtles when they were just babies after they were being experimented on by her scientist father and his partner Eric over here. They of course drank some of that green lean and learned ninjutsu in the sewers from a handbook. And then bam, you have Ninja Turtles. It's a bit different, but it's still a turtle story. Where it gets weird though is Shredder and the Foot Clan. You see, Big Eric over here was originally supposed to be Shredder in the early screenplays, but they pulled the old switcheroo mid-production, bringing in a new actor for Shredder and demoting Eric here to his second in command. The only problem though, we barely get any time with Shredder and their plot gets very, very messy because of this. I had to read up a recap of the plot just to make sure I wasn't bugging, because upon watching the movie, I wasn't sure if I missed something or their big evil plan was just that wild. So Shredder wants to take over New York, which isn't anything new, but we never get a reason for that in this movie really, and then they want to get a lot of money, because I guess the billionaire is motivated by getting rich. Either way, the master plan to achieve great power and wealth is to go to the top of the big tower owned by Eric here and unleash a deadly toxin upon New York. Sounds familiar, but we'll get to that. So after the city is presumably quarantined due to the toxin, they'll bring forth the mutagen and save New York, pulling one over on the government. And this will, I guess, lead to them getting a lot of money and control over the city? Only problem is that wouldn't work, and the fact that they're using their own tower to emit this toxin. That sounds like a foolproof plan in my opinion. Also, there's just simply better ways to go about this if they want to get money or power. They created giant working mech suits and made a serum that can turn animals into talking, thinking giant beasts. You could create your great powerful army with that, or just sell it off for a lot of money. But sure, I like your plan too. The majority of the film is pretty whatever. There's some cool Michael Bay action sequences, which is to be expected, and I enjoy the time we get with the turtles. We get to the climax though, and oh, did I click on the wrong movie? No? Okay, I just go with it. The biggest issue I had with the enjoyment of the film, however, had to be just how awfully written the main characters were. I mean, everyone besides the turtles is pretty poorly written, but specifically April and Vern just kill the movie. I can't even really blame Megan Fox and Will Arnett because they aren't really putting out horrible performances, but the characters they play gotta be some of the dumbest and most unlikable main characters I could have thought of. We have April, who seemingly doesn't make a single smart choice. People running from danger? Let's go see that. Got kidnapped? Let's make eye contact with the kidnappers, pull out my phone, and then take a picture of them. Anytime she is pressed about sounding crazy, she doesn't provide proof or logic. She just rambles like she got put on the spot in class by her teacher. She even contradicts her own character. Somehow, she shuns people who believe in aliens, but she's the sane one, telling people they're dumb for not immediately believing her when she tells them there's 6-foot talking turtles who do karate running around New York.
There is a vigilante in this city and no one knows, but I do. I know. And now I have my story. There is no more froth and foam for me.
Then there's Vern, who is just the worst. He does nothing in this movie besides follow April around with googly hard eyes and act like the most pretentious alpha Chad I've seen since Casey Jones in the first one. Literally, the only reason for him being in the plot at all is because he thinks April is crazy, but he wants to bang her, so he keeps tagging along. He's really just such a wildly unnecessary character in these movies.
Oh, Neo.
Is your refrigerator running? Why don't you eat my ass?
Yeah, so I wasn't the biggest fan of this reincarnation. There were some good moments, like I thought most of the CGI was quite good. There are some fun set pieces, some of the character redesign was much improved. Then again, it's a low bar set by the Bug Boys over here. But overall, it just lacked the heart of TMNT. We spent way too much time with pointless plots and dumb side characters. It takes away from the fun of what these movies could be, when there's barely any fun with the turtles. You mix the action, set pieces, and visual effects of this movie with the writing and charm of the first two 90s movies, and you might have a perfect TMNT movie. Unfortunately, we didn't get that, so we just gotta live with a film full of these two. Well, hopefully the second one is better, right guys?
Watch out now! What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing, babes.
So, this wasn't great either, but good news, it's more fun than the first, and that's a win. Now, by no means am I in love with this film, but there's a few things that does make itself better, so let me get to the good stuff first. Aesthetically, this is a much more visually pleasing movie. They got rid of that dull, color-washed look and replaced it with a lot more vibrant and enjoyable set pieces. I'm so glad they did this because if they were trying to have a goofy, fun time, which is what the Turtles are, it helps that we aren't in the Batman universe where everything is designed to look like it's a walking dump. Here, not only are the visuals more alive, but so is the tone of the movie. It's a complete 180 from what they were going for in the 2014 film. Here, they took a light-hearted approach, aiming for a goofy, fun summer blockbuster, and I'm personally glad they did that. A lot of the issues I had with the first was its personality, and as I said, if they could mesh some aspects of the first with the charm of the 90s, it would be damn near perfect. They sort of went that direction, although it's not perfect, it makes for an overall more enjoyable experience. I think maybe they went a little overboard on the lighthearted tone, as it sort of felt every character was trying to be goofy, funny, haha, to the point it kinda caught me off guard. Even Splinter's character was full of quips and gags that just felt out of place.
There's only one question. Why are you wasting time talking to a grumpy old rat?
The goofy nature worked extremely well with others though, and brought forth the standouts of the film, Bebop and Rocksteady. We'll get into the other performances soon, but I have to say these two are fantastic. They bring the charisma and charm I was wanting. It's kinda wild too because Gary Anthony Williams and Sheamus from the WWE outclass everyone, but there's such a stark difference in the enjoyment of the film from when they're on screen and when everyone else is. If there was one thing these films did better than any of the other adaptations, it would be their portrayal of these two goofballs. So, good on ya, TMNT2. At least you passed the vibe check in my book. Onto the less desirable aspects of the movie though, the main flaws of the first carry over here, that being the awful villain plot and development, as well as the horrible characters and how they're written. The villain plot's not even worse, it's actually more straightforward and works for the tone they're going for, however, it doesn't offer anything to the film. We have Krang, Shredder, Baxter, Bebop, and Rocksteady. We get maybe like 1 minute of total screen time with Krang before the climax, which is wild considering he's the main antagonist of the movie. The plot involves some interdimensional stuff, but the main synopsis of it is Krang wants to build a big bad machine to invade Earth with. He gets Shredder with the help of Bebop, Rocksteady, and Baxter to find the pieces and complete his machine. So the entire movie is them finding these pieces and the Turtles figuring out their plan and trying to stop them. So then when they finally find all the pieces, I'm thinking, whammy, it's climax time, big battle, how are they going to destroy this machine? How are they going to fight Krang? And then the climax is just this. Dog, I've seen more damage from your granddad drunk at the bar on a Saturday night. I kept waiting and waiting for something to happen, and nothing did. Then I realized the machine ain't even built yet. The climax of the film is just a bunch of floating pieces of material getting transported to build the big bad machine. So no one is in any immediate danger, there's no threat happening. What ends up playing out is the Turtles stop Krang before the machine is even built, and everyone goes home damage-free like nothing ever happened. Talk about stakes, baby! Also, does this final set piece look familiar? Yeah, I'm sensing a theme here. The funniest part though is the villains just decide to turn on each other. Shredder turns on Baxter because yeah, and then Krang turns on Shredder because yeah, and whammy, that's ballgame. Nothing really happens and the villains don't even really have characters, but that's not really the main issue of the film anyways. Shallow antagonists aren't the end-all be-all in a film that's just trying to be a fun summer blockbuster. The real issue of the second one is the characters are even worse. April and Vern are back in full effect. April is a little better, but her character is kinda just dejected to being hot. I can't really fault Megan Fox, she's not amazing, but she doesn't got a lot to work with in the first place. Vern is still just Vern, but the big change up is they thought 2 dumb side characters weren't enough, so now we got 3 dumb side characters. We got Casey back, and unfortunately he's the worst out of all of them. Look, I mess with Stephen Amell. He was one of my childhood idols as a young Canadian boy, but he's not great here. And you pair their performance with the god-awful writing and you got a character disaster. I don't know what they were doing in that writing room because every character is kinda brain dead. Casey doesn't make one logical decision in this movie. He's just off in another world. There's this scene where he's in a bar following a lead, and he's talking to the bartender trying to get answers. The bartender isn't budging, so what does Casey do? What any logical person would do, of course, and just starts destroying shit and damaging property until the guy answers.
You mind if I borrow this, do you? Hey! Oh, what are you doing? You know what? Never mind. Has a scratch on it.
That's not how real life works. Bro would be fired and sued, dog. There's a lot of examples of pretty bad writing in the movie though, like the very convenient inmate transfer trope. Why is he moving prisons? Well, we gotta break him out somehow. Or my personal favorite plot point, Vern having a key to the city and it being used like an actual key to the entire city, allowing him to go anywhere. As if that's a real object that could exist and being awarded to people. Hey, at least we got dripped out Mikey though. Overall, what to say about these movies? I think they're okay. I'm always happy to see more TMNT in the mainstream, but will I watch them again? Probably not. Will someone young who loves the Turtles have very fond memories of these movies and be in love with them? Probably. I'm that way with the 90s adaptations and those aren't great by film standard. I think there's a lot more fun to be had with the second one. The plot moves pretty fast and the lighthearted nature makes for a good time, but they are pretty similar in flaws. The big issue to me seems they never put much effort into making these anything unique or special. They felt like a big money grab opportunity by just making a generic blockbuster and slapping the TMNT name on it. There's almost nothing special about these movies. It feels like something we've seen plenty of times before, and even the climaxes feel directly ripped out of other bigger projects. Maybe you guys have different opinions on what you want out of a TMNT movie, or you could even love these. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I would also appreciate if you enjoyed the content to leave a like or subscribe, as it would help grow the channel. Next time, I'm looking forward to taking a look at my personal favorite TMNT movie, But for now, I'm gonna leave off with one positive. The theme is back.